Yeah, so I'm a chief architect at i2k Connect, and we're a company that builds AI solutions for multiple industries, but oil and gas included. And we came here today because we wanted to talk about, ChatGPT and how people expect to be able to chat to their data. But so it's definitely brought a revolution in how we expect to use computers. We have all this data just sitting around in reports, in logs, and it's just in a corpus, millions and millions of items. And we want to get to it, but we don't know how to get to it. We've had decades to try to learn how to get to it, various search techniques. What we've learned from the ChatGPT example is, or what we think should be possible is, can't I just ask for what I want? And so we're trying to build that, and a lot of people are trying to build that. There's new techniques that are available now that weren't available even 12 months ago. And what we've learned along the way is it takes a bit of domain knowledge. You can't just take any question and treat it the same as every other question and look at any arbitrary set of documents. You need to sort of understand what might be asked about, what these things might contain, how to get the right information out of these documents. So it's not completely domain specific, but we've learned some lessons that if you take something off the shelf, it's just not going to work in this kind of domain. Well, what we wanted to look at was, how easy is it to give something that's kind of off the shelf, or even like Copilot from Microsoft or Gemini from Google, just give it your stuff and see if it can answer questions. And we've learned that it can't. In kind of intriguing ways, it fails to understand some basic concept about like how wells are named, for example, or what a depth is. But I don't want to say that those tools are incapable of this. They're just, there's the horizontal players versus the vertical players. So the horizontal companies are the ones that are building solutions that can be applied to pretty much any situation. And that makes a lot of sense because there's a ton of money in making something that works for everybody. But what we've learned is, for it to work for you, you need to have a lot of redundancy in your data. You got to allow it to find an answer pretty much anywhere. Like if there's 10 or 20 different sources in your corpus that essentially say the same kind of answer, then it'll find that and you'll have a good experience. But if, like in this domain, there's one fact in one file in one document, or one document across a corpus of millions of items, you need to find that one. So if you have, part of it is retrieval, right? You got to find the document. You have 99% accuracy in that, but you have 10 million things. That's a lot of false retrievals, and you can't feed those all to the language model. So you got to get really, really good at retrieval. And so what we wanted to show is, if you use something that's not really designed for this industry, it just doesn't work that well. Again, I think you can use those tools to make them work better, but as is, it's not at all solved. And so I was trying to show what we've learned by taking some things off the shelf and building some custom things to make it work better. There are still gaps in the understanding. So there's jargon, there's particular ways of speaking that petroleum engineers, for example, are, they're comfortable with. And if you either don't understand what they're asking or you don't give the answer in the right form, they're going to feel like, great, but I don't think I'm going to use this. And so I was saying during the talk that I feel that we're going to be able to pinpoint maybe the quarter or like the month in the year when a particular AI piece of text was generated, or even an image. I mean, probably even clearer with an image, because we're going to see in 2030, oh, that sounds a lot like ChatGPT 4.0. It's so specific in the way it talks, and there's reason for that, the way it was trained with human feedback and so forth, but it has a style, and it's just not the style people are looking for in all situations. It's a very general style. It doesn't really talk scientifically. For one thing, if you ask it questions about this industry, it explains things to you like you are just learning it. Well, that doesn't help me because I'm an engineer. So what we've learned is that, or what we believe to be true, is that the gap is the domain expertise. And the way you get that, we think, is that you train these models to speak like a petroleum engineer, because if you give them text from petroleum engineers. So if you give them research papers or questions and answers and all that kind of stuff that come from this community, then it can talk like that community. The crazy thing about these models, why they're so revolutionary, is by giving them examples of this, they actually start to reason like the community, right? So they're not very good at math right now, but they can do some math, and they're going to get better at it. They can reason through some causal analysis. That's not because they have internal processing, right? They have what we would have normally have programmed, logic, ontologies, and all that. They don't do math in the normal sense. They just speak. But by giving them enough examples of how to think through problems, they'll be able to replicate that kind of process. And then I think we'll see the petroleum engineering community say, this does make sense for me because it's succinct, it's exactly what I'm asking, and it doesn't belittle me. There are high expectations, right? We have to admit that. On the other hand, I'm one of those people, and there's many people who think this is like another revolution, like industrial revolution. It is so transformative in the way it's capable and things that we are trying to do for decades. And now it just suddenly does it so significantly better that it will, like I said about pinpointing the date and time, like when a certain model was released, will recognize these patterns of use cases and the way it processes things and the way it generates things and say, that looks very dated, it's from a particular era. But that doesn't, just like smartphones, I mean, they're not going to somehow go away. They're just going to get more integrated. All these AI tools will be more integrated. They'll look a little different. They'll be a lot more streamlined. But it's not the kind of hype where now we don't care, like a Segway or something like, oh, it's going to change cities, and then nobody uses one. It's going to be everywhere. It'll evolve, and it'll get a lot better, but I think we'll all be using some form of it.